Israeli government and Palestinian opposition put the PNA between the two teeth of a nutcracker and let it lose its vision as a general Palestinian authority. And this is also a very important point. This authority started to act like a factional instrument. The head of the authority deals with the Palestinian political forces not as president of Palestine, but as head of one political faction which has turned into the ruling party. The entire authority has turned into the executive instrument of this ruling party and its commander-in-chief. In the eyes of many, the authority lost its neutrality and fairness as a regime that governs the people's future and the general Palestinian interest. It is seen as a regime expressing narrow political and economic interests. The second internal factor contributing to the dilemma of the authority is the most important and dangerous one. This is because responsibility for it lies totally within the authority and is within its capacity to resolve. The Palestinian view of the authority and its capabilities will be conceived on the basis of the authority's performance. Up to this point, the performance of the PNA, to say the least, has been a disappointment, with a widespread negative evaluation among Palestinians. The disappointment can be sensed on 4 levels, which together have resulted in increased detachment from the authority. The first level is the authority's inability to rise to the level that people came to expect of it as a result of its own promises. The authority raised the expectations and now can deliver. People are still in the West Bank and Gaza, are waiting for the promised independent Singapore. At a time when unemployment reached about 50% in the Palestinian areas, a certain class of people, also this is very important, with connections to the PNA have become wealthy. Facts mingled with rumors have spread about the dubious ways that public money and interests are managed. The Palestinian street is full with stories about suspicious deals and how one can take advantage of official posts, make commissions, and enter into shady partnerships. People want an official post as a way to achieve entry into the world of power and money and as an opportunity to get rich. As financial corruption spreads among the elite of a poor society, the expectations of the public have become disconnected from the accomplishments of the authority. The accomplishments became accomplishments of certain people. Meanwhile, the authority can't provide enough assurances to the Palestinian public about its future because its previous assurances and promises dissipated in the face of Israeli pressures and facts on the ground. The confidence of a growing number of Palestinians in the Palestinian Authority and its ability to perform has reached a low point. The second level of disappointment revolves around the composition of the authority. Its structure is not clear. Rather, it suffered from deliberate randomness during its formation. The intertwining and duplicity of agencies created on purpose without any institutionalized building process led to appointments based primarily on political loyalty instead of professionalism. The main aim has been to build an authority that supports the political leadership. This system allows the authority to use appointments as gifts to supporters and loyalists. Without institutionalization and with politics the basis for the formation of governmental agencies, there can be no chance for accountability within the authority. The authority, through its own measures, becomes totally immune, this is very important, from anyone pursuing it legally to try to limit its interference, organize its decision-making process, and limit its random displays of power. But at the same time, as the authority shields itself this way, it isolates itself from the heartbeat of the Palestinian street. It makes itself more liable to hidden anger, which is actually growing. As for duplicity in the formation of the authority, this leads to purposeful ambiguity in the responsibilities of governmental agencies with similar duties. It results in continuous bitter conflict among departments, with each one trying to defend its own interests. Actually, in the same department, we find 5 or 6 Secretary Generals of the ministry. The end result, which was the goal in the first place, is that decision-making is paralyzed at all levels and pushed upward until it finally reaches the top of the pyramid, the President and Commander-in-Chief. He is the final judge in all issues and the only source of decisions and rulings. So one can sum up the entire authority in the person of its leader, who possesses all responsibilities and authorities. Actually, he is its legitimacy and ability to survive. In short, the Palestinian National Authority is a blatantly patriarchal, traditional political entity. Such a model cannot face the mounting Israeli challenges and achieve the minimum expected of it by the Palestinians. And actually, this is why the Israelis like it very much. The tendencies exhibited by the Palestinian Authority are the third level of disappointment. During the Palestinian nation's long struggle, one could sense democratic tendencies and longing for freedom and independence. The Palestinian Authority has not until now fulfilled these expectations of the Palestinians. Its behavior doesn't point to a democratic future. The authority and its agencies were formed through appointments, not elections. Instead of holding elections in every place possible and insisting on creating a legal structure that separates governmental powers, protects citizens' rights, and guarantees freedoms, the authorities' attention has focused on creating security apparatuses that have no known legal limits and that compete among each other. The overt actions of the authority, which doesn't have many resources and achievements to begin with, focused on spreading security control by expanding the use of arrests, closing newspapers, and closing the small margin of freedoms with covert fear. The most recent action of the authority was to create the State Security Court, which can impose punishments using British mandate regulations dating back to 1945. Finally, the fourth level of disappointment is the PNA's inability or ineffectiveness in facing Israeli measures. While the Israeli government doesn't respect the Declaration of Principles, has stopped implementing the Declaration of Principles stipulations, imposes arbitrary measures on the Palestinians, systematically creates facts on the ground, prejudicing the outcome of the peace process, the Palestinian Authority stands in front of its people unable to face Israel. Some authority officials still risk issuing threats dealing with the fate of the peace process once in a while, but the Palestinian Authority has never dared push these threats to the point of stopping the futile negotiations on details in Cairo. The authority stands in front of the Palestinians totally unable to control, even partially, the direction of this process, which the Palestinians are burdened with more every day. Of course, such a counter-performance in the dealings with Israel results in no acclaim on the part of the Palestinians. Now, an authority which cannot seem to show its people anything but shortcomings in maintaining their national rights, rights for which they fought for a long time, which is incapable of doing things that could make the Palestinians feel a positive change, which fails to impose the rule of law, guarantee respect of private and public rights, and which concentrates on security measures against its people because they continue to resist Israeli occupation. This is an authority that cannot win much respect and appreciation of its people. At most, it can impose its presence on the nation by using more power or because there is no alternative in a nation passing through a serious stage of regression. Thank you.
Well, we heard from Mr. Shmawi about the fact that we don't have a state in Palestine, but there are state security courts. Now we heard from Dr. Jarbawi that there is a state of general depression. I guess all this is connected in some way, and so it's evidently time to bring on the mental health experts. We're very lucky to have Dr. Iyad Sarraj here this morning. He's the director of the Gaza Community Mental Health Program. He won his MB and his Bachelor of Surgery from the Faculty of Medicine in Alexandria, Egypt, and a diploma in Psychological Medicine from London University. He's been a pillar of the mental health community in Gaza, including 7 years as Director of Mental Health Services in the Strip from 1981 to 1988. He's published many research reports, including on topics to do with children of the Intifada, house demolition and mental health, peace and state of mind. And amongst his many other distinguished positions, Dr. Sarraj is a board member of the Arab Studies Society in Jerusalem. He's a former member of the Palestine National Council. He's a board member of the Women's Affairs Center in Gaza, and also of the Palestinian Independent Commission for Citizens' Rights. So I'm very happy that he's with us this morning.
Thank you very much. I'm privileged, and I don't know where to start. This issue is very complex, very depressing. But I would like to start with a positive note by saying that the mere presence of this and the mere convention of this opportunity and others gives me the hope that the Palestinians will never accept such a fate or fate. And we have continuously to pursue our struggle for liberation and freedom and democracy. And we have to do it ourselves. Now, I think that Gaza can be described in so many ways. It's one of the oldest places on earth. It's one of the most crowded places in the world. The hotbed of the Intifada. And now, it can be described by one phrase: so much movement, no progress. In Gaza now, you see so many delegations coming and going from the World Bank, from the United Nations, from the European community, from NGOs, politicians, ministers, everybody in Gaza. But no change. In fact, many of the services have worsened. Now, I think that we are dealing with a very insecure Palestinian Authority, and one has to be careful when he deals with insecure people. There is definitely a change in the people's mind from romance to ridicule when it comes to Yasser Arafat. Yasser Arafat was a hero that was romanticized by the Palestinians for a long time as a symbol, as a father, as a leader, and as a lover. And today, he is so ridiculed. And one of the ways of perception of things is how they tell jokes. And there are so widespread jokes now about Yasser Arafat and the authorities that are, by the way, told from the Egyptian folklore. Sadat and Jamal Abdel Nasser and Hosni Mubarak, and I'm sure that you know many of them. I cannot tell them because they're so obscene.
Please do.
There is so much bitterness, particularly among the poor. The poor of Gaza are suffering more than anyone. With the rise of a few businessmen now, private businessmen, by the way, who were very well established during the Israeli occupation, now they're finding their opportunities also available and under the Palestinian authorities. Some of them were known to be collaborators with the Israelis, have found now best places. And the poor who have experienced torture in Israeli prison, the poor who have experienced house demolition, the poor who have experienced the detention, the night raids, the shooting, the killing, and suffered the economic burden of the Intifada all through, are now seeing, I say to themselves, what is this? Is this the liberation we waited for? Is this the way I am being treated by my own national authority? When collaborators now are given best places only because they have money. The money they made from me during the occupation time. Disappointment in Yasser Arafat personally is widespread. And I will tell you in a minute about an opinion poll that we have conducted. Some people give him excuses, I must say, by saying that it is not him, it's the people who are around him, who are corrupt and who are thieves and who are so and so. But he is a pure man. He's very good. He's full of good intentions. It's only his advisor that is so bad. We don't know. I don't want to say my own views on things, rather I will talk about people's perception. There is now a feeling of apathy, indifference, and alienation from the political process and the leadership. And this is very sad because when the Palestinian force came to Gaza in last April, and when Yasser Arafat entered Gaza for the first time, people were really excited. And they felt there is a strong and immediate identification process between the community and the leadership. But that has evaporated, has all gone. And people feel that this authority does not represent them anymore. And why? Because rumors of and solid facts of widespread corruption, if you don't know now a security officer of high ranking, or if you don't come from a very big family in Gaza, well, bad luck. Hard luck for you. Because it is a very important requirement now to have any business going for you in Gaza, including like transfer of a telephone line from one place to the other, or to have any kind of services, that you have to have a security officer behind you, or you have to have a big family, a big tribe that Yasser Arafat considered important. There's a wide spread feeling of chaos, that we don't know where to go. It's only Yasser Arafat and the people, and nothing in between. No institutions, no structure whatsoever. All these ministers, all these director generals have no function. For the ordinary citizen, he's been told, even by ministers, go to Yasser Arafat. But director generals, I don't know anything. Go to Yasser Arafat. So why are you appointed? What are you doing? People ask. So well, I don't know. And I actually, personally, have seen so many of them who don't know why they are appointed and what are they supposed to do. I can name names, but it's not very good. But I'll give you one thing. I know for a fact that in the last year, Yasser Arafat has appointed the cabinet. The Minister of Health learned about the appointment of his deputy from the newspapers. Then 5 director generals were appointed in the health ministry. Each belonged to a separate faction within Fatah. Then what is the sad thing is that in the last year, these senior people never had one single meeting between them on the question of health. Other people appointed, they don't have offices. But they flock to Yasser Arafat's office to have more ranks, military ranks, to have salaries, have cars, apartments, allowances, etc., etc. When they are doing nothing. And I know many of them are actually doing nothing. And they tell you, when you tell them, why did you tell Yasser Arafat? We tell him. Everybody claims, that people around him, that they tell him. I'm sure that nobody is actually telling him, because if all of them are telling him, why is he doing this? If you are not Fatah member, and also Fatah is now so many Fatah. If you are not a Fatah member, you have no future in this area. As it seems today, 16,000 armed people now are recruited who are Fatah support. You see, the serious thing is not Yasser Arafat. The serious of the matter, is when he is out of the picture. Because the system that he is now establishing is so serious, so damaging, so complicated, by imposing a police dictatorial state with security forces in charge that have no concept of human rights or civil rights. People have no concept. They think that democracy is intellectual talk, the best. And it's a waste of time, because we want to build the country, they say. How do you want to build the country? We want to build the country. We don't talk about democracy and election, all this. This is all a waste of time. We want to build the country, they keep telling you. Right? How you want to build the country? So we have to plan things. How can you plan things? You want to build the country single-handed? I asked one of the ministers once. He said, no, of course not. I said, do you want people to help you in this? He said, yes. I said, do you want slaves or you want partners? He said, of course partners. I said, this is democracy. If you want partners to participate with you in the building of the country, this is democracy. Why you are so much against the concept of democracy and civil rights and human rights? We want the rule of law. We are not against the rule of law. In fact, we want the rule of law, but we want fairness and equality before the law. We want to feel that people have rights and they are dignified after so many years of brutality and oppression and humiliation at the hands of the Israelis. This is what people are longing for. Dignity, pride. And in fact, and sadly, Yasser Arafat and the Palestinian Authority has given only shame to the Palestinians. Now I'll turn to an opinion poll just to give you some indication of how the people think. Only in February we conducted this for the purpose of this conference. We asked around 400 people, random sample throughout Gaza. How do you think of different issues like political process, the Palestinian Authority, conduct, and political leadership, and elections, and all this?